Okay, I think we should start, Bridget.
Yeah. Helen, if you want to kick us off.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Shannon Chamber's first virtual networking event. It's a whole new landscape for Shannon Chamber, but also another opportunity for us to do something to maintain the networking that we so truly offer to the members on an ongoing basis over a calendar year. But we're not here to talk about COVID-19, but this is the reason why we've actually been pushed into a space where we're doing the virtual network before we start off, that you and your family and your colleagues are keeping well. So just to kick it off, our relationship with Rahi Systems is based on them being an FDI client in the region, and I was introduced to Rahi Systems just over a year ago and got quite excited about what their value proposition was in the region. And we're joined by Marcus Doran, the General Manager for Rahi Systems, who's going to talk about Rahi Systems and about how they can support many of the businesses in and outside the region. So it's quite exciting to be working with the local company to be able to demonstrate how we can actually all do what we're doing here today, connect and network and continue the business that we need to conduct in light of the crisis that we're currently facing. So together with Rahi Systems, we're joined today also by Mike Adams, and Mike is actually with Zoom, and he's the learning session. He's going to talk about Zoom and what the value proposition of Zoom has to offer to you as businesses. And DTEN, we're joined by Andrew Bissett, a regional manager with Ireland, UK and Africa. So today we hope that you get an insight as to how you mobilize your business and continue a business as usual strategy. So I'm going to hand you over to Marcus, and Marcus will set the scene with regard to Rahi Systems. There will be lots of opportunities to ask questions during today's session, possibly after the presentations, and you can also actually ask those online. So over to you, Marcus.
Thanks, Helen, and good morning to everybody. I'd like to, I suppose, take this opportunity to thank Helen and the Shannon Chamber of Commerce for hosting the session today in conjunction with Rahi Systems. Obviously, we're in very unusual times at the moment, where the current COVID virus, I suppose, is really ensuring that, I suppose, employees and companies are working from home. And I think it's fair to say that from a business continuity standpoint, we didn't anticipate, I suppose, a global pandemic. I suppose COVID-19 in effect has certainly one where before the discovery of a major pandemic, you know, it would have been considered a low risk and really seen as a black swan event. So I suppose that's why a lot of companies today haven't been really prepared for the COVID-19, but I suppose we are where we are at the moment. And there's a responsibility for individuals, for companies to flatten the curve. And I think with the partnerships that we're going to talk about today, they will help people have business continuity and the ability to run their business from a remote session itself. So we're looking forward to hearing from Mike and from Andrew. Just a next slide, please, Bridget. So a little bit on Rahi Systems itself. So we're a global system integrator located in the Raheen Business Park. We are a company that has over 800 employees with 32 locations, and in Europe we have 6 locations. Our focus really is on the critical IT infrastructure for IT complex estates. So we focus primarily on your data center, your server rooms, comms rooms, but also on the AV side, and obviously the focus for today's session today. On top of that, Rahi Systems also has the capability to do a lot of professional services, installations, and also managed services also within our capabilities. So next slide, Bridget. So very quickly again, just to recap, the areas where we play are in the integrated solutions, and through Rahi Systems development over the last 7 years, we have broadened our scope outside of the traditional data center arena into the workplace productivity side. And again, that's the focus for today. So it's all about ensuring that employees can be more efficient in their day-to-day operations. And Zoom is a key partner along with DTEN to allow you to be an efficient worker in your day-to-day activities. Rahi Systems itself, as I said, we're there to help clients with their complex IT requirements, data center, server room, that's our core business, but also on the side with AV, that's where we're getting into workplace productivity, where we can help people with Zoom rooms, we can help people with boardroom, huddle rooms, etc. And we'll talk about that more as we go through this session today. So as Helen mentioned, there is an opportunity to ask questions within the chat box. And when we come back after the presentations from Mike and from Andrew, we'll have an opportunity to have some live questions and answers session at the very end. So without further ado, what I'll do is pass you over to Mike Adams. Rahi Systems has worked with Zoom over the last number of years. And now I'll pass you over to Mike.
Great. Well, thanks very much. Great to meet you all. So my name is Mike Adams. I've been with Zoom for 2.5 years. I look after all Zoom partners in Europe, and I've been in the tech industry for 25 years. So, I've spent a lot of time in meetings, and I'm sure all of you have as well. So today's topic is really about optimizing that meeting experience, whether you're working from home, which is obviously everyone right now, but even once we go back to normal life and go to the office, that meeting experience is really an essential part of every day. We have meetings with our colleagues, our customers, our suppliers. We have so many meetings. And now the reality is, for many people, the meeting experience is broken, right? For many people, there's issues in meetings. You've got the quality issues where you can't hear each other, you can't see each other. You have people who have no issues connecting their laptop, joining a meeting, turning on their camera. We've all been there. We walked into a meeting room and tried to connect our laptop to the projector. It was the wrong cable, the wrong dongle, the wrong, whatever, the projector was turned off. There's always technical issues when people try to join meetings. And that's very frustrating, of course, right? So that's obviously a big problem. So we're trying to solve that. How do we change that around to have really a perfect meeting experience? And that applies both to when you're working from home, which is everyone now, and when you go back to the office. And the reality is there's already lots and lots and lots of meeting products on the market. And for most companies we speak with, they're already confused because there's too many products already out there. Some companies already deployed 4 or 5 different meeting products, whether it's GoToWebinar, WebEx, Skype, Microsoft Teams, etc., Slack, etc. So it's all very confusing because many of these systems are not compatible with each other. There's obviously user issues where you've got 5 different apps on your laptop. So how do you simplify that, right? How do you bring that all together? And the idea is to have really a simple one-stop shop solution to connect all of these systems together. Zoom really helps you there. Zoom is that one click in the middle, which connects all the other systems regardless of what they are together. So if you're scheduling a meeting yourself, you don't have to worry about what the other people are using as their technology. So as long as you schedule a Zoom meeting, remote people can join that meeting from their meeting room, from their web browser, from their phone, from their Mac, PC, etc. So you don't have to worry about what technology other people are using. This really makes the entire meeting experience that much simpler and seamless. As a meeting organizer, it's a single click in Outlook or Google Calendar on Mac or PC. Just click a button, send an invite to everyone, and everyone can join regardless of what other system they're using. So again, it's really that one-click experience, that magic button, which makes your life so much easier as a meeting organizer. And of course, there's a very strong integration into Microsoft products. So many of you might already be using Microsoft Skype for Business or Microsoft Teams, a new collaboration tool. And those tools are great for chat and to talk to your colleagues, but have lots of limitations when you want to talk to external people who might not have a very fast network, or people who don't use Microsoft, or people using meeting room systems. So Zoom is really there to kind of fill the gap and improve the video quality of Skype and Teams, to really bring it to the next level with a better video quality, better sound quality, allow you to show up to 1,000 people on video. So have a much richer meeting experience, really. Now, in a meeting, you show everyone's face. This is the most important thing in any video meeting, is to show everyone's face on the call. This is really essential to make sure people are engaged in what you're saying, to make sure they're paying attention to you, to make sure they're not lying or telling you the truth when they talk about their sales figures or whatever reason it might be. So this is really the most essential part. And with Zoom, you can show up to 49 people on your screen. So that might be quite extreme, but let's take your standard Monday morning meeting with your sales team. It might be 10 people or 5 people, whatever it is. You want to make sure you can see all of their faces to make sure you're engaged with them, right? And Zoom really allows you to do that to the next level. Whereas most other video tools only show 3 or 4 people on your screen. With Zoom, it's really everyone in the team. So this really makes a big, big difference. And then you can also do a webinar like we're doing right now. We have a few panelists broadcasting to thousands of people. And in a webinar, it is still engaging, interactive, in the sense that people can ask questions on the chat, right? So it is still interactive. In a webinar setting, you can have up to 50,000 people on the call. And you can also stream that webinar to YouTube or Facebook Live up to 1 billion people. So truly a mass scale meeting experience. And then every meeting can be recorded. And that's really important. If you miss an important meeting, or you want to watch it again, or to create like a database of all your meetings, this is really essential. And with Zoom, every meeting it can be recorded, right, on demand. There's no extra charge for this, is part of the solution. And then every recorded meeting can also be transcribed, either live during the meeting with live subtitles while you're speaking, or also after the meeting occurred, so you have a full transcript of every word spoken during that meeting. And this is very useful to do searches. Let's say you type a keyword, you can find every instance where someone said that word in a meeting. This is great for compliance reason in a law firm, great for education to find training sessions, great in healthcare to find patient cases, etc. So this is again very, very useful. It's included for free with all Zoom for all Zoom users. And then once you've recorded all these trainings, you can also integrate all these recordings into a learning management platform. And there's many of them out there. Many tools are available like Canvas or like lots of others to literally manage all these recordings and create like a mini YouTube channel for all your recordings for your internal use, of course, right? Now, one thing which is really important to make sure your audience is engaged is to use a virtual background. So if you're working from home, you don't want to show your kitchen and your bedroom, you know, and your personal items. So you can actually use a virtual background to change, right, what's actually appearing behind you. So right now it looks like I'm working from a Zoom office, but I can equally be on a beach right now, right? You will know the difference. So effectively, we're using augmented reality to detect the background behind you. So it's very easy to change your background, either to make it look like you're on holiday or to make it look more professional, like you're actually in an office setting, right? And we use this feature all the time. So virtual backgrounds are really an essential part of Zoom. Now, one way to engage your audience is to do polls. So in a Zoom meeting, you can do a poll where you ask your audience a question they can answer. And if you do a long webinar, a long meeting, I always recommend you to use this feature. Just makes it more engaging for your audience to interact with you. Even in a team meeting, it's really useful, and that's built in. And then breakout rooms means you can have smaller virtual breakout rooms where, imagine you've got a meeting with 20 people, you can then split them up in 3 or 4 groups of 5 or 6 people so they can chat on a specific topic for like 4 or 5 minutes, and then you bring them back into the main meeting. So this breakout room feature is really important when you're doing a training session for learning and development. It's also very useful in a large team meeting for your whole company. So we use this all the time. This is a really, really neat feature in Zoom as well. Now, really to have that great experience I was talking about, it is really about the culture of your company. Your entire company has to embrace that culture of having video meetings. You know, it shouldn't be your CEO telling your employees, you must use video conferencing. You know, it should be coming from the users themselves, where they really understand the benefit and the value of it to be able to see their colleagues. And the reality is, we've all been burned before, where we tried a video conferencing product, which was very complicated, didn't work very well, the quality wasn't good. So people kind of went to a default experience where they just turn off their camera because they just didn't like it. But now they tried to use Zoom, it works so much better. You kind of change the whole culture of the company, and the users themselves are asking for it. So this is really a big shift in culture. Now, once the coronavirus crisis starts to cool down, and we all go back to our offices, there's another thing we need to pay attention to, which is our meeting rooms, our physical boardrooms in physical offices. And those meeting rooms, for most of us, and I'm sure you've been there before, they're too complicated, right? There's too many buttons, too many remote controls, too many cables. We've all been in a meeting room where the setup was just not ideal. So the way to change that, how can Zoom help you in those meeting rooms as well? Well, Zoom has actually really created that user experience for desktop, which we call Zoom Meetings, but also for meeting rooms, for boardrooms, which we call Zoom Rooms. So Zoom Rooms is really a reinvention of the whole meeting experience. So with Zoom Room, not only do you have video conferencing as part of the core experience, but also audio conferencing, wireless presentation from your laptop to the big screen, room booking and scheduling, and also digital signage to display your company logo or your cafeteria menu on all the screens in your company. So the idea of Zoom Room is really to simplify the meeting room experience and to encompass all the elements of the room for every type of meeting room, whether it's a small room for 3 people, a boardroom for 15 people, or an auditorium for 500 people. And these are not 5 separate products. This is one single solution. So it makes it really simple to use. So the Zoom Room interface is really designed to be CEO proof. Right? So even a CEO with 0 technical experience can walk into a Zoom room, press a single button and launch their meeting or join a meeting or add a participant or share the presentation. So this is really the golden nugget here, is that user interface, which is super, super, super easy, right? And that's the game changer, I'd say, in meeting rooms. Now, when you're using Zoom, it's not just about the UK or Ireland or Shannon, right? It's really about the whole world. So very often you might be in Shannon yourself, but your customers might be in India or China or South America or rest of Europe. And this is why it's really important to have that great experience anywhere in the world. And so Zoom really has that global footprint, even in countries with a very low bandwidth internet connection, like India and China. It works perfectly well. And so the proof is in the pudding. So try Zoom if you have really international calls with your colleagues, your customers. Now, there's already 1 million companies using Zoom. So there's lots of case studies and references, many of them in the UK and Ireland and the rest of the world. So effectively, you really have lots of different types of customers, small, medium, and large. So if you're looking for case studies in your specific industry, you can find them on our website. And really what sets Zoom apart is that customers love our product. So again, you don't have to believe me that Zoom is a great product. I recommend it to try it for yourself. You can just contact Rahi Systems. They can set up a trial for you, try the product, and really experience it for yourselves, because there is such a huge difference in customer satisfaction between Zoom and everything else on the market. So if you've ever used a video product you didn't like, don't worry about it. Try Zoom for free, and you can see the difference for yourself. Now, really, we want to help you have that perfect meeting experience, whether you're working remotely, like every one of us now, of course, during the quarantine, but also when we're back in the office around the meeting room table, right? And that experience, both of these experiences have to be perfect. So let's look at some of the use cases for Zoom right now during the crisis. And we've seen some really interesting use of Zoom during the crisis. So for example, some kids are having martial arts classes over Zoom. So that's kind of a new service many martial arts schools are offering to kids. Another one is Zumba classes on Zoom. So in fact, you can keep fit even staying at home during the quarantine. We've also seen yoga and meditation classes on Zoom. So one of my colleagues at Zoom in London is actually a yoga instructor. So he gives a yoga class on Zoom every single day. So that's really nice. Then quarantine cocktail parties. Lots of people are actually doing happy hour over Zoom. Obviously, we'll have to stay home, so might as well enjoy it. And then quarantine cooking brunch edition. People are doing recipes over Zoom. And then we've got online quiz on Zoom, like a pub quiz. And that's happening literally all the time. Birthday parties on Zoom. So people play with their virtual background to make it a bit more entertaining for all the guests. And even frozen birthday parties. So this is for kids, obviously. Some companies are now really capitalizing on Zoom to offer like a personalized entertainer on Zoom. And then bedtime stories on Zoom for kids, violin classes on Zoom, watching TV shows with your family, your remote family and friends, Acapella singing club on Zoom. So really it's opened a whole new industry of services using Zoom as the connection tool for all these people. And people are now getting married on Zoom. So this just happened last week. So this is literally fresh news. And then you can do family game nights on Zoom. Preschool, you can literally teach your kids on Zoom. Lots of schools are now deploying Zoom right now in Ireland and the UK. You can do scavenger hunts to entertain your employees, to go and run in the kitchen, grab some items from your kitchen and compare with your colleagues. And even dating on Zoom. So now many dating apps are recommending to use Zoom as your dating tool. And then even symphony orchestras are now rehearsing on Zoom. And there's book clubs on Zoom, magic shows on Zoom. It's all happening. So really, right now is the time to start using Zoom and to feel more connected. Effectively, we want all of you to feel connected, right? That's really the message here is use Zoom to feel connected to your colleagues. You can see each other's face. I hope this was useful and entertaining and interesting. And we'll have a Q&A afterwards. But for now, I think I'll pass over to Andrew to talk about DTEN. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Really do appreciate it. And I just love those use cases. I think looking at the current crisis, it's amazing how creative people have become. And, you know, they say necessity is the mother of all invention. And I think we're all faced necessity, and it's amazing how creative you can be. I think that rings true to why people love using Zoom. It is just by far the most reliable, flexible, and easily accessible web collaboration and video collaboration platform out there, which kind of brings into the next stage. So one of the reasons why I love Zoom is not only for all of those reasons, but also the fact that you've simplified the room experience too. You know, how many times have you walked into a meeting room, seen some really amazing, very fancy, and normally very expensive video conferencing equipment up on the wall? Not everybody in the organization actually knows how to use it. So where Zoom have really made video collaboration very intuitive, you've also gone to make a room system very intuitive too. And instead of me actually talking about it, Bridget, maybe if you could stop sharing. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to flick my camera. I'm working from home today. I'm fortunate enough to have a nice big 55-inch screen behind me. But if I was in an office or an executive office and I was to use it, let me actually just flick over my camera to the screen and I'll just talk through it. So Mike referenced the Zoom Room interface earlier. So that Zoom Room interface, you know, Zoom have really made the room experience very intuitive. That interface is standard regardless of what hardware you use. With other hardware, you would get it on a tablet as a controller. With the DTEN board itself, because it's an interactive touch screen, effectively your control is up on the screen. And I was talking about how Zoom made the room experience intuitive with Zoom Rooms. You know, this is the interface you get greeted with when you walk into a room. So when I talk about being intuitive, for a scheduled meeting, so this webinar that we're on at the moment, because I was invited to join as a panelist, or even if I joined as a participant, it automatically goes into my calendar. So if I walk into a meeting room and I've invited the meeting room to join as a participant, it then goes into the calendar itself. So you get a genuine one-click access into a meeting. On another hand, if you just want to start a meeting on the fly, you can literally click meet and it will start a meeting on the fly. You've also got a very fancy full Ultra HD screen. So even if you're not physically in a remote meeting or if you don't have a remote audience joining you, and all you want to do is to share your laptop on the screen, you are welcome to do it old school, where you can plug in an HDMI cable, but you don't have to. With Zoom Rooms, you've got a built-in direct share, a lot like click to share. So I've got a sharing key up in the top right-hand corner there. So if I had the Zoom app installed on my laptop, I could then just share it that way. Alternatively, you can go into a web browser. And I was talking about how intuitive the interface is. If you forget how to do it, click on share content. It'll pop up and prompt you. Just to explain, I'm in my home office. I've got a little camera pointing at the screen so I can actually just talk through the screen with you. The camera does adjust to the light, but as I change the screens, it does take a couple of seconds just to adjust. So I'm hoping you can see that. So Mike was talking about it being CEO proof. It genuinely is. You can walk into a room, you want to share your screen, you can't remember how to do it, click on share screen from your desktop. If you've got the app, you use the key. It also has proximity sharing as well. So it identifies that that is the closest board to you, so you don't even need to enter that key. Alternatively, if you've got a guest visiting you and the guest wants to present but they've never used Zoom before, they can just use a web-based browser. From an iPhone, it simply uses mirroring. So you can literally just mirror your iPhone or iPad or MacBook up onto the screen itself. So I talked about if you've got a pre-scheduled meeting, it goes into the calendar and you get a genuine one-click access. Start a meeting on the fly. Even if somebody is using a traditional video endpoint, you can still connect via SIP or H323 if you want to as well. The bit that I really love the most is whiteboarding. Whether it's just for an in-meeting experience or an online experience, turn the whiteboard on, give my camera a couple of seconds just to settle down. So I've now got a whiteboard, so I can now start writing. In addition, I can have multiple whiteboards going at the same time. So try it a little bit more formally. So as you would use a whiteboard. Personally, I prefer, I'm just going to add an additional board on there. Personally, I prefer the black and white board, just a personal preference. Obviously, you can see the reflection, just how big my little home office is. Talking about Zoom. So with the whiteboard, you can have multiple people contribution towards this at the same time. In the room, in fact, it's got a multi-point touch. Now, if we're in a meeting environment and I'm just busy presenting collaborative to the people in the meeting room itself with me, I suddenly decide, actually, you know what? I'd rather share this with somebody else. I can start a meeting on the fly. Literally start a meeting, there you go, it's connected. I'm just going to expand that video a little bit. So that just started a meeting on the fly, and from physically within the meeting, I can then also invite people as well. Just click on the settings, go to invite, and I can then invite people. You've got Active Directory integration as well, both with Microsoft Exchange as well as Google. So with Active Directory integration, I can then choose a room in my directory. Alternatively, I can just send an email to somebody and invite them to that. So you can literally just, it's very adaptive, it's very intuitive. You don't need a user manual on how to use the board itself. Zoom rooms have really simplified the room experience. Obviously, what I've done there is I've joined a meeting. Alternatively, I could have joined the meeting that we're physically in right now and done a screen share. Everybody else that's in the meeting can also contribute towards the whiteboard too. Another great application for this, for the whiteboard itself, is because normally a screen like this would be used in a shared environment, you don't want to save your whiteboard in that shared environment for other people to have access to it. But I do want to save it. So if I just click on save, it shows me the 3 whiteboard sessions that I had going, and you can have up to 10 of them running. Go next, and then I can then email that whiteboard to myself, send it via email, either as a PNG file, as a JPEG, or as a PDF. I don't know how many of you have ever taken a photograph of a whiteboard just because there were some important points that you wanted to remember. Well, now you can make that a thing of the past. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this, and I'm going to end that meeting, go back to the front screen. So again, back to how intuitive Zoom Rooms is. Very straightforward on joining a scheduled meeting, start a meeting on the fly. You can literally just, if you know the meeting ID, you can join a meeting that is going. Sharing content, as well as whiteboard. And then as well as Zoom also offers Zoom Phone. So as an add-on to your license, you can add on Zoom Phone. In that case, you don't need to then install hardware and phones in your meeting rooms themselves. You can use the all-in-one video endpoint as a phone system too. Another key bit about the DTEN unit is it was designed in conjunction with Zoom as a dedicated Zoom Room endpoint. So yeah, I've talked about how intuitive the user experience is when you walk into a room, but it doesn't start there. It starts by actually doing an installation. So DTEN is designed as a plug-and-play device. This unit itself is a 55-inch. You've got a microphone array, so 16 microphone array across the top, a 4K camera, and an Ultra HD screen. When you take delivery of one of these boards, it comes with a wall-mount bracket. So setup, the hardest part is actually mounting the bracket itself, or you could put it onto a cart. So let's say it takes you 15 minutes just to put that bracket up on the wall. You take the board out of the box, hang it on the bracket itself, plug in the power supply. As it boots up, it will prompt you to join either a wireless network or plug it into an Ethernet. And then it comes preloaded with Zoom Rooms, and all you need to do is to enter your Zoom Room activation code. So with the exception of actually mounting it to the wall, total installation time of a device like this is somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes. I don't know how much simpler or easier or intuitive you could actually make setting up a Zoom Room experience. Now, I know looking at the current situation or the current climate, so many of us have had to adapt to working remotely. Many of us have been doing it for a long time. Others have had to change the way that we work, but it's amazing how quickly we have adapted to working remotely. This is going to continue. So once the virus is under control and everybody can return to their offices, the whole idea of working remotely and having dispersed teams, let me just flick the camera back just so I can actually see you there. The whole idea of having dispersed teams and knowing how effectively you can be working remotely has really changed the way we do business. The world has genuinely changed. I think it's really imperative that we're all ready with business continuity plans when we do start returning back to work. And the fact that people have become a lot more accustomed to working remotely, the need to be able to have effective collaborative meetings is going to be crucial. So with the likes of a DTEN and Zoom rooms, you can put together a video endpoint, build a room solution in a very cost-effective and a very rapid way. In addition to that, I talk about DTEN being designed in conjunction with Zoom. It is very closely integrated. So not only is it plug-and-play technology, it's a dedicated Zoom room solution, but also when it comes to onward managing or future management of the devices. Zoom have got a Zoom admin portal, and from that admin portal, you can manage all of your room solutions. That includes updating of applications, so the Zoom application. It also includes upgrades of the firmware, so of the device itself. And Zoom are just evolving at such a rapid pace. They're continuously adding new features and functionality. In turn, so a DTEN. So in the next update that we've got coming, actually this coming weekend, I talked about the 4K camera that is built into it. That's a fixed lens 4K camera, so it is fixed. Currently, you can go into the settings and you can manually zoom in. Come this weekend, a software upgrade that is coming out, it includes auto framing. So what it will do is it will auto frame and zoom into surrounding the actual individuals within the room itself. If you walk around the room, I'm not really one for sitting still when I'm talking. I suppose my home office actually probably keeps me a little bit better controlled, but I like to walk around. With auto framing, the camera will actually physically follow you. Or if everybody's sitting at a desk, it will frame itself around everybody in the desk. So the device itself is built as being future-proof. Zoom are continuously evolving and developing their offering, and in conjunction our product. And all of it can be centrally managed through the Zoom admin portal. So you no longer have to go out to the device to do any updates or upgrades to it. It's being built to be future-proof. Bridget, could you do me a favor and just jump back one slide? So looking at the current range, the unit I've got behind me is a 55-inch. That has been very much our flagship product. There's probably about 13 or 14,000 of those out in the marketplace so far. Earlier this year, we launched the 75-inch, and they are very rapidly ramping up. We also have a dual screen version. So with the dual screen version, you can have your video on the one side, your content sharing on the other, and you have the ability to toggle those around. So you can use either of them as a touch screen. So these are ideal solutions for an office environment, catering from your smaller huddle spaces up to your mid to large meeting rooms. And if you don't mind just flicking over to the next slide, a new product that we have coming very soon is the DTEN Go and Mate. And that is designed to add on to an existing screen. So if you've already invested in existing screens, but you'd like to turn them into collaborative boards, what we've done is introduce the DTEN Go. It's effectively got 4 cameras built into it, mounts on the top of an existing screen. There's 2 4K cameras, one for close-up, one for further away, and 2 auxiliary cameras, giving you a full 160-degree angle of view. It also comes with a tablet, and that tablet itself allows you to then annotate on an existing screen. So even if your existing screens are not touch screens, you can turn them into touch screens by annotating and using whiteboard functionality through the tablet. Now that is expected to be available in Europe in the next 2 months. And in 2 weeks' time, we've got another very exciting announcement coming out, specifically catered around the home office. But unfortunately, we'll have to wait a couple of weeks before we can formally announce that. I think just looking at, summarizing what Zoom have done for end customers and what you can gain from using Zoom, what DTEN are doing for room solutions, in conjunction with Rahi. Right now, we encourage you to prepare for going back to work. When you get back into the office, the world has changed due to the current events. The way we work has changed and evolved. It's been quite a rapid evolution, but we just encourage you to make sure that you are prepared when you do get back to the office. Thanks very much. Marcus, if I can pass it back to you.
Great, thanks for that, Andrew, and also Mike as well. Thanks for your demo. So we have a number of questions through the chat box. So what we might do is just go to those first of all. So first one, Mike, if you've seen the first one in, is what level of integration is there between Slack and Zoom? What can you do?
Yeah, so there's a very nice integration between Slack and Zoom. We're actually very good friends with Slack. Slack internally, for their own internal use, actually use Zoom. So they're actually a customer of Zoom and friends as well. And so when you're in a Slack channel and you're chatting with your colleagues or customers or others, you can actually launch a Zoom meeting directly from the Slack user interface. So it's really a direct integration between Slack and Zoom. So the idea is that effectively you don't have to get out of Slack to launch a Zoom meeting. From Slack itself, you can literally type add Zoom and launch a meeting, join a meeting, invite people to a meeting, all of that directly from the Slack interface. So it is really a seamless experience for Slack users. Yeah, right. And we love Slack. Cool.
So maybe just continuing on maybe the integration question, Mike. If somebody's a Teams or Blue Jeans, what other integration capabilities are there around Zoom?
Yeah, so as I mentioned during my presentation, there's a very slick integration with Microsoft Teams, where we've actually been given an award by Microsoft for best integration partner into Teams. So we have really a seamless experience where when you're in Microsoft Teams user interface, there's actually a Zoom button directly in the user interface on the tab bar on the left. So from the Microsoft Teams user interface, you can literally join a Zoom meeting right away or launch a Zoom meeting. If you're in a Microsoft Teams channel, like chatting with some of your colleagues about a specific topic, with one click, you can invite all of them into a Zoom meeting. If you walk into a Zoom room, from the Microsoft Teams user interface, you can share your presentation directly into the Zoom room. So again, it's a really seamless integration. So for any customer who have already deployed Microsoft Teams, it will be very easy to improve the video experience by adding Zoom to that, right? For Blue Jeans, I would say it's more of a replacement than an integration. So if a customer uses Blue Jeans today, they can literally stop using Blue Jeans and switch to Zoom instead if they want to have a better video quality, have a better room experience, etc. So then it's not so much an integration, it's more of a replacement, I would say.
Okay, cool. And
Marcus, maybe if I can add to that, and I just flicked over to my screen behind me. That's obviously a question we get asked frequently. The DTEN is built as a dedicated Zoom room device. The beauty behind that is it's plug and play. And a lot of people then ask us, well, what if we want to be agnostic? We're an Office 365, a Microsoft company. We've used Skype. Skype's obviously been end of life next year, encouraging that transition over to Teams. So that company uses Teams. And what happens if somebody schedules a Teams meeting? Well, from the DTEN device, one of the key bits, by being a dedicated Zoom room appliance, it does allow it to be plug and play. It keeps it intuitive. It's not trying to be something that it's not. And the beauty is if somebody does send you an invite to a Teams meeting, you can invite the Zoom room to join as a participant, and it actually goes straight up in the calendar. So the same as this invite that we've got right now for the meeting that we're currently in, you can click start the meeting. So what you're doing is you're effectively joining a Teams meeting from your Zoom client. So I think that's a lot of feedback we get from a lot of companies that we transition to Teams. Teams is a great persistent workspace, and it's part of Office 365. So if you're an Office 365 user, you may as well capitalize on that investment. But Teams is a persistent workspace. It works very well with Zoom, and it's amazing how many companies are actually now transitioning over to Zoom for the conferencing, collaboration, and telephony, but keeping Teams for the persistent workspace. And they interoperate very well together.
Yeah, and that's a good point Andrew makes. Now, imagine you've deployed Zoom internally and you're only using Zoom for everything you do, and all your meeting rooms are Zoom rooms, but then one of your external customers or partners sends you a meeting invitation in your inbox for a Teams meeting or a Skype meeting or a BlueJeans meeting or a WebEx meeting or some kind of other system. The beauty is Zoom is universal. Zoom connects to everything. So once you get that meeting invite from another service, whatever it is, you can simply forward it to the Zoom room. And when you walk into a Zoom room, it's one touch to join, right? So this is really cool. It's kind of that universal appeal that connects to everything, right? Cool. Next question. We had a question about, what else? Can we connect a second camera, a second whiteboard to a D10? So I'll let Andrew answer that one.
Yeah, let me take that one. I think that one's from Shane. Thanks, Shane. Yes, you can. So as much as, and I'm going to leave the camera up on my board, the D10 itself is modular. So I can just pull off the microphone array. You've got microphones and you've got a 4K camera. So that is built in. It is a fixed lens camera. But if you want to add a second camera, you are welcome to. There's USB ports in the back. So you can literally plug in a USB port and have an external camera if you want. The 4K camera is obviously future-proof. I mentioned earlier that you've got auto framing coming out in the firmware update that happens this coming weekend. So the need for an external camera is probably going to be less relevant. But if you want to, and especially in a bigger room, if you want to add an optical camera, you are welcome to do that. To answer the second part of your question about a second whiteboard, absolutely. So we deliberately do the D10 in a dual screen version. That allows you to use the one side for video, the other side for whiteboard, collaborative, and content sharing. And we do encourage the use of the deliberately created dual screen version in order to add a second. Zoom have also introduced Companion Whiteboard. And Companion Whiteboard, it's often, or the D10 is often used specifically as a companion whiteboard. So you mount it onto a cart and you can wheel it into a room. So if you've got an existing Zoom room already set up, you might have two big screens up in there. You can wheel in a D10 into that room. I mentioned earlier, when you install the D10, it powers up, prompts you to join a Wi-Fi or Ethernet. It then preloads Zoom rooms. The first option it gives you is the mode. Do you want to be a Zoom room endpoint, or do you want to be a companion whiteboard? If I selected companion whiteboard, that then allows you to join and link in with an existing Zoom room setup purely as a whiteboard. So I hope that answers your question.
Cool. We've got another question from Helen. What are the top challenges businesses are presenting with right now? I mean, the top challenge right now is obviously business continuity, right? How do you keep on working as usual, as if nothing happened, right? Business as usual. And clearly that's the biggest challenge right now. But obviously the other challenge is, how do you keep your employees motivated? You know, this is so important. You can't just expect them to work like robots when they're completely disconnected from the world and from their colleagues and from the office. So kind of both of those things are tied together. And really, it's all about human connection. I think, you know, working at home all by yourself all day is going to be difficult if you can't have that human connection. If you can't see the face of your colleagues, feel like you're with them, you know, doing some happy hours over a video call, you know, you need to have that human connection. So we want to really help that by enabling everyone to have a great video conferencing experience, where you can really see everyone's face on the call. You have a great video experience. You can literally feel like you're in the room with them. And I think that will help both on the motivation side and also on the business continuity side, where you can keep on doing your best work, even when you're not physically in the same room as your colleagues, right? We got another question about how does Zoom Meeting integrate with Zoho CRM? It's a CRM system. There's a simple integration, so we integrate seamlessly into that. And all the details for that are on our website. So there is definitely an integration for that, right? Now there is another question from Jason, which is quite interesting. And his question is, if you have transitioned to Microsoft Teams, is there not an overlap with Zoom in terms of capabilities? How do you convince businesses to buy into Zoom when you've already invested in Office 365 and Teams? And we get this question literally every single day. So I'm glad you asked, Jason. Effectively, you know, there's some overlap in the sense that Microsoft Teams can do a video call and you can do a video call. So clearly there's an overlap, but the user experience is literally completely different. Like if you're doing a Microsoft Teams call, you can only show 4 people on your screen. So if you have a team meeting with 10 people on a Monday morning, 6 of them are falling asleep or not paying attention to you, and you won't even know about it because you can't see them, right? And that's really kind of where it all falls down. So I think Teams is a great tool for chat and for, you know, doing one-to-one video calls, that's fine. But as soon as you're doing a team meeting, it's not the right tool for the job, I would say, right? Whereas with Zoom, it is really designed from scratch, from the ground up, to do meetings with up to 1,000 people, where 1,000 people can see each other, hear each other, share the presentation, see each other's faces. You know, it is a really rich video meeting experience. So that's where it's a very different experience. And then the other point is obviously connecting to external people. So when you connect, you know, within your internal team, within your office, it's great to use Microsoft Teams. It works great. But what about connecting to external people? What about connecting to offices, to meeting rooms, to external people on a low bandwidth connection? That's where, again, where Teams is not kind of the tool for the job, where Zoom is, right? So I would say there's really a complementary nature of Zoom for Microsoft Teams. It's kind of an add-on to Teams to really enrich and improve that video meeting experience to the next level, right? And the best way to understand that at a more fundamental level is to try it for free. Do a free trial, do a team meeting on Microsoft Teams on a Monday morning, and the next week do that same team meeting on Zoom. And you can really see it for yourself, right? It's very clear there's a massive difference and a massive gap. So again, Zoom is not a competitor of Microsoft Teams, it's an add-on to improve that experience. And many customers have tried to deploy Teams as their kind of all-in-one singing and dancing tool, and they very quickly realize actually it doesn't work for this scenario, for that scenario, for that scenario. There's all these scenarios where it doesn't really work. And then they get, okay, we'll just add Zoom to fill those gaps. And that works really well. So to be honest, the majority of Teams customers are adding Zoom to their environment right now. Cool. I hope that answered the question, Jason.
Yeah, there's a question from Maria also, Mike. What is required to live stream from Zoom?
Very simple. So we can stream into either Facebook Live or YouTube or Workplace by Facebook. So 3 different ways we can live stream. So to stream into Workplace by Facebook, you can just use the standard version of Zoom. It can directly stream into Workplace by Facebook. If on the other hand, you want to stream into Facebook Live or into YouTube, you must use a webinar license. You must have the webinar license. You must be in webinar mode instead of in meeting mode. And then there's a direct stream into YouTube or Facebook Live, right? So the difference between a meeting and a webinar is that in a meeting, everyone can see each other and hear each other. In a webinar, you can only see the panelists and all the attendees cannot see each other, hear each other. You can just ask a question on the chat. So it's more of kind of a broadcast mode, I would say, the webinar platform. Whereas in meeting mode, it's really everyone can see each other. It's more of a, you know, let's see each other and share each other's, see each other's face during a meeting.
We're getting a couple more questions in. Yeah, a couple more questions in, which is great. So can companies whose employees are already working from home set this up now, or do they need to wait until their workplace reopens? So effectively, they can already deploy Zoom right now, right? You can do it right now. You don't have to wait until the office reopens. But when the office reopens, obviously the next consideration is what do you do with your meeting rooms, your boardrooms, right? And that's where you put like a DTEN panel, for example, work with Rahi Systems to deploy your meeting rooms, your physical meeting rooms. But you obviously, you don't have to wait. You can already start thinking about it now. You can already look at it now. And so whenever the office does reopen, you're kind of ready to go, right? So there's really 2 considerations. But yeah, you can start now, of course.
I think maybe just to add to that as well, you know, I'm fortunate enough to have a 55-inch in my home office. We have a lot of our customers that have actually taken their 55 inches home with them to use while they're working from home. If you have the space, that's great. If not, we do have a new product that we will be announcing in the next couple of weeks that will be a little bit better suited to our home office. But for now, as Mike said, Zoom is very much available for home use. The D10, if you have the space for a big board, absolutely. If you don't, give us a couple of weeks because we will be introducing a smaller version.
So a question for yourself then, Andrew, is can the whiteboard be mirrored on the attendee local device?
Absolutely. And then that is all the beauty behind Zoom. The D10 itself, as much as it's a touch screen, the whiteboard it uses is Zoom whiteboard. So as Zoom enhanced the features and functionality of whiteboard, that automatically becomes available on the hardware. And when you're sharing a whiteboard, multiple people can contribute. As a presenter, you can choose if you want to have exclusive use of it, or if you want your audience to be able to contribute. If somebody's joining from a laptop, it's not as easy using a mouse. If you're joining from a tablet or a touch screen, you can interact in that whiteboard very, very easily.
Cool. And then there's a question from Mohammed, and that is, does the D10 support proximity join from a personal device to transfer a call from your Zoom device, let's say your laptop, to a Zoom room or a D10 room, right? And the answer is yes, there's a way to escalate a call from your personal device, let's say your iPhone or Android phone or a Mac or PC. So that when you walk into a Zoom room or a room with a D10 board, which is a Zoom room, you can escalate and move that call from your personal device to the meeting room. So effectively it detects the room automatically, and in the Zoom interface will be a small thing which pops up saying, do you want to transfer the call to the big screen? Just click yes, and boom, it's transferred. So this works great on a D10 screen or any other Zoom for that matter, right? Which is a really cool feature.
Mike, there's actually a great video. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was somebody from your Amsterdam office recorded it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's on the YouTube channel, the Zoom YouTube channel. It is there. It's really cool. So you showed someone actually doing that. Yeah, it's quite cool. Yeah, but you can all do it yourselves if you've got a D10 board.
Another question for yourself, Andrew. So with regard to sound quality, what would you recommend to mute background noise or reduce echo due to room design to enhance sound quality?
What I'm going to do is it's easier if I just show you. I'm just going to flick back on the back camera. So on my D10 board, I'll just give my camera a couple of seconds to adjust. In the settings, you've got your microphone, and built into the D10 board itself, I mentioned the 60 microphone array up at the top. The good thing about that microphone array is you can set it to pick up. The first setting is 1 to 3 meters. The second setting is 2 to 5 meters. The third setting officially is up to 10 meters. But we've got some great videos that have been doing their rounds where it's being tested over 30 meters. So to answer the question, it is important that you set that correctly, because in my little home office, if I go and change it to the third setting, you will be able to hear my dog barking in the kitchen. So I won't change it to that setting. It also has software auto processing and advanced noise suppression built into it. And when you very first install it, as much as it is plug and play, it also encourages you to do an echo test, and it does it periodically itself. So it will automatically adjust itself for echo in a live environment itself. So once it's been plugged in or installed into a room, it will test the way that the microphone picks up sound in that room. It's quite smart.
Very good. I think we have a question from Shane.
Hey guys, Andrew, Marcus, Mike, great webinar, really enjoying it. I have a question just in regard to the plans around deploying Zoom Room on Android OS. Zoom Room runs on Windows, I think. What's going on in that side of things for Zoom right now?
Yeah, great question, thanks. So we're not planning at the moment to launch Zoom Room on any Android device. Instead of that, we've actually worked with a few very specific manufacturers like D10 to build a special version of Android with Zoom Room pre-installed. And the reason for that is we want to maintain that quality experience and that quality user interface and that fluid user experience. And most Android devices out there, their technical physical processor is too slow to have a great user experience. So basically, there's only very few Android devices out there which would be powerful enough to run Zoom Room in a proper way. So we've decided to only work with D10, where they've literally manufactured a specific device just for Zoom Room with a special version of Android just for Zoom Room. but the user will never actually see the Android user interface. It's completely hidden. For all intents and purposes, it's a Zoom Room appliance, right? And we work with 2 other manufacturers who are bringing Zoom Room products based on Android. But again, the user will never see the Android user interface. It is literally like a closed appliance. So the fact it runs Android is nearly irrelevant, I would say, because you're never going to use the Android features. It is really kind of an appliance. If you look at the old-fashioned codecs from Cisco, for example, they run some version of Linux, right? But you actually never see the Linux operating system because for all intents and purposes, it works like a closed appliance. Like you just turn it on, it just works, right? And it's kind of that same philosophy with Zoom Room for Android. It is literally an appliance. And again, DTEN are embracing that and integrating that into many of their products, right? So we're really moving to that appliance model. So where the operating system really doesn't matter. It's irrelevant, nearly, in the sense it's just a kind of all-in-one device. Does that answer your question? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's really good, Mike. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Shane. Sorry, Shane, even to the extent that we actually call it the DTEN operating system, which is based on Android.
There you go. It's really hidden, yeah.
Yeah, the goal is that is hidden, and that we refer to as our on range. So the D7 range, the board behind me is a D7 range. It effectively has a Windows 10 IoT PC plugged into the back of it as an all-in-one device. On range is the Android-based, running on DTEN's operating system. And they are shipping into Europe already, so they will be available in just over a month. And we'll have the 55-inch, a 75-inch, and as I mentioned that we are going to be announcing a new device better suited for home offices in a couple of weeks' time, and that will be based on the DTEN operating system as well.
Great, thanks, Andrew. So we're coming to the top of the hour, and I really appreciate Mike and Andrew's presentation along with the introduction from Helen. Just before I close off and hand back to Helen, just to let you know again that Rahi Systems is a partner of Zoom and DTEN. You can contact us for eval licenses for Zoom, and we also hold inventory of the D10, 75s and 55s. When I say at the moment we're caught on inventory just due to the pressures from China at the moment, we are getting stock back in. So we can help you with supply of 55s and 75s from Europe itself. So again, thanks for everybody's questions. They're really great questions, and thanks for all the answers back. So what I might do, Helen, is just if you want to close off the call itself.
Okay. Firstly, I'd like to thank Marcus, yourself, for actually giving us access to Rahi, and for Andrew and for Mike for joining us here today. This was about the Chamber looking at a solution to provide to businesses, and a lot of businesses are struggling with this. And even us as a Chamber of Commerce, we're looking at ways to engage with our board, with our stakeholders, and with our member companies on a one-to-one basis as we overcome the current crisis. So I think the solution is on our doorstep. It's a one-stop shop. I have spoken to quite a few businesses who use Zoom. They're really excited about it, providing a solution for them to actually continue the business continuity strategy that they need to continue when they're engaging with companies locally, regionally, nationally, and worldwide. So I'm hoping today that we've met the expectations of the member companies, and we had, I think, close to 70 people joining today's call. And I think this event is recorded, so we can actually also share the output from each of the presentations to make sure that other people can actually reach out to you, Marcus, and your team in Limerick. But I'd like to thank you again, and I'd like to thank Bridget, who's always in the background actually making things happen on behalf of Shannon Chamber of Commerce. And please reach out and engage with us for any future virtual meetings. This is the first, and we'll be continuing to do it. And may I add, we'll be continuing to do it with Zoom because we're signing up as a Zoom member effective today.
That's great. Thanks again, Helen, and thanks to all the attendees, and have a great day, and obviously stay safe, everybody. Thank you again.
Great. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.